Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. I'm joined by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins and members of our executive team that are here with me to give you an updated report on the status of taxes here in Westchester County government. This is the first of three consecutive conversations that we're going to have about three of the most important issues that affect people who live in our county. We're going to talk today about taxes. We intend to talk in our next update tomorrow about crime and the progress in fighting crime. And then we're going to talk about environment, things that we're doing to deal with the environment. All of these three issues are important for you to know. There are many things happening in the nation and the world which are of overwhelming importance. But what happens here in our backyard, in our home county, is also important. And we want to share those things with you so that you have the basis to assess where we are and where we're going. First, let me highlight the obvious, which is property taxes is the single most discussed issue for those people who own property here in Westchester County. It is no surprise that we in the New York metropolitan area have the highest taxes in the nation, both between New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. All three areas are counties routinely rank in the top 10 counties for taxes. But the kind of property taxes that you pay are really divided into different portions of it. And the three most common pieces is the money you pay for schools, school tax, the money you pay to your county government for regional local services, and the money that you pay to your local government, whether it's a city, a town, or a village, for local services. And those local services, police, fire, sanitation, snow removal in the wintertime, localized recreation, are perhaps the services that you see the most tied to your property. On the regional basis, the county government is responsible for running transportation systems. We have the responsibility to incarcerate individuals in a county jail. We have responsibility for the delivery of the social service network of programs that are created at the higher levels of government, but they require the county government to actually administer that. Those and a host of other things represent county government. And of course, the schools have a singular function, and that is the education of our young people, which may in fact be the most important task that government provides in a democracy. But it's important to understand the breakdown. We have a graphic we want you to look at, which will give you a sense of what proportion of your total tax bill goes for each of these three different areas. We've generalized in this breakdown. There are certain differences that apply from place to place. Some communities have a local fire district, and that's a discrete tax. Some people have a local library district. In the community of Yonkers, the school and the municipal governments are combined into a singular entity. But for most people, this graphic applies. You pay approximately 65% of your total tax bill, total property tax bill, for your schools. You pay, of the remaining one-third, slightly more to the county government than you do to your local government. And we gave you the example in this graphic of what happens if you pay $20,000 a year in property taxes. Most people think in terms of their aggregate property tax bill. How much do I pay in taxes? I pay $20,000 a year. They don't necessarily internally break it down. If you pay $20,000 a year, and if you pay more, you can multiply off of this number. If you pay less, you can divide below this number. But a $20,000 tax bill, in round numbers, means that you pay $13,500 of that $20,000 to your local school district. And this is pretty true almost everywhere you are in Westchester County, and for that matter, in most of the New York suburbs. You see that we roughly allocate about $3,500 out of that $20,000 bill for county taxes, and then about $3,000 for your local taxes. And again, there's variations between that. But what we talk about under Westchester County government control is the county property tax bill, that $3,500 out of $20,000, which is obviously a much smaller amount. It's somewhat less than 20% of what you pay, or in that general vicinity. But it's important to understand that when we look at the overall tax bill, we grasp that the cost of property taxation is difficult for people. It makes it difficult for people to stay in their homes when they reach the senior citizen years. It is one of the factors that inhibits people who are starting out from being able to get into a home and in a private setting. And of course, not all of the purchased properties are single-family homes. There are condominiums and things that are in multifamily structures that also involve purchasing things. But the county property tax levy is what we're responsible for, and it's also important for you to see what has happened over the last few years. And this is an example of this administration's understanding of the priority of property taxes and then trying to do something about it. So within our portion of those taxes that we just described, that $3,500 out of $20,000, let's show what has happened over the course of the last number of years. When we look at the county property tax levy, that phrase represents all of the county property tax dollars that are collected from residential as well as commercial property owners. And that aggregate amount is what we need in each year in order to fund the county government. We have other sources of income. There are other revenues. There are reimbursements that come from the federal government and the state government. There are user fees that add into that figure. But the highest amounts of money come from property taxes and the other tool that we have for funding the government, that's sales tax. Property tax levy, you'll see the graphic. In 2019, the total amount of money collected from property taxes was $570,579,000. And over the last number of years on this chart, you've seen the numbers drop in the 4 following years to the most recent number for 2023, which is $542 million, $196,000. That means that we have cut property taxes, cut them in the last 4 years, consecutively, all 4 years. And that drop from $570 million to $542 million depends on where you live, how much property you own, what the assessed value of your property is. But across this county, if properly administered, you would have had a decrease in your county property taxes. Now, that's a portion of your total tax bill. And you might find that the school taxes during that period of time went up, or the municipal taxes may have gone up. And so you look at your overall tax bill and say, my taxes didn't go down, they went up. But the county portion of your tax bill has gone down over the last 4 years. We've done a number of things to try to make that happen in the way we manage our workforce, making us as efficient as we can with the least number of employees that can effectively do their job. We also try to do that by finding efficiencies when we negotiate contracts. We've had a long list of contracts, whether it was the Liberty Lines renewal in 2018 or the Wheeler-Brader contract and others, where we have negotiated better deals and therefore savings for the county. But perhaps the most important thing that we did was to shift from property taxes as the major base of taxation and to shift more over to sales taxation. We have sales tax on the articles that we buy. And that sales tax is in some control for the individual consumer. If you choose to buy a $60 pair of slacks, that's your choice. If you buy an $80 pair of slacks or $40 pair of slacks, that's within your control. And the amount of taxation on it is standardized across the board. And it's a very small portion of the total price. When you pay your property taxes, you have no negotiable opportunity. There's an assessment on your property. Each of the different taxing entities issues you a bill, and you have to pay that amount. No negotiation, no adjustment of your consumption. We made the decision in 2019 that we wanted to equalize sales tax across Westchester County. Our 4 cities, Yonkers, White Plains, New Rochelle, and Mount Vernon, have their own sales taxes, and those numbers are higher than the remaining villages, towns, and the 2 small cities in Westchester County. Also, the sales tax levels of Rockland and Putnam were above our villages, towns, and 2 small cities. And of course, New York City and Long Island had higher sales taxes. So we made the effort to equalize that across the board. That equalization meant that if you bought an item in Mount Vernon and paid local Mount Vernon taxes, you were paying more in Mount Vernon for sales tax than you were in Bronxville. You were paying more in New Rochelle than you were paying in Larchmont or Pelham. By equalizing that out, it was a matter of fairness. And in addition to the fairness, we were able to generate additional revenue and not injure the various businesses that conduct their operations because of the slight change in sales tax and the fact that we still have a lower sales tax than New York City, lower than Long Island, and just equal to Rockland and to Putnam counties, our immediate neighbors to the north and to the south. In doing that shifting away, we had full bipartisan support from local municipal officials because we also did something very important in that effort, which got the approval of the state legislature and the governor of the time. We shared back additional revenue to the school districts and to the local governments. And why did we do that? Because you pay taxes to all of those entities. You don't just pay taxes to the county government. And when Westchester, of this additional 1% that occurred at that time, we shared back 30% of that additional revenue to make sure that local governments had 20% of that revenue and 10% went to the school districts. And that has had a very positive effect. When you take a look at how Westchester stacks up with other counties, take a look at some of our neighbors in the region and how much they've shared back. The Westchester number, 30%, that relates to this most recent action taken in 2019. We have aggregate numbers from the other counties that may involve multiple years of actions. But Westchester County shares back to local governments 30% of that revenue stream. Dutchess County, 18%. Nassau County, 18%. Ulster County, 15%. Rockland, 6% of their sales tax shared back, and no share back in Suffolk, in Putnam, and in Sullivan counties. Now, each county makes their own decisions, but when Westchester County shares back money with the towns and the villages and the two small cities, and also with school districts, we're helping them keep local property taxes lower. And that's the added benefit of what this strategy does. Let's look at a couple of examples. We have Greenburgh, town of Greenburgh, largest town in Westchester County. They kept taxes flat for 2020, 2021, 22, and 23. Now, credit the Greenburgh elected officials, the town board, but also understand that that additional revenue that the county was able to drive into Greenburgh helped them make those decisions. Town Village of Harrison, they lowered their taxes in 2020 and in 2021, and they kept their taxes flat for 22 and 23. Up in the town of Somers in the northern part of Westchester County, they lowered their taxes in 2020, and they kept their taxes flat in 21, 22, and 23. Credit these local officials. Make sure that you understand that the town supervisors and the town council were the members that made those decisions, balanced those budgets, and taxed you less. But understand that the county played a role by providing additional revenue through the way that we equalize sales tax across the counties. We have more to do. We're not by any means where we want to be in all of these things. We have issues with our sewer districts and our refuse district, and we're going to discuss how we're going to attend to them in the 24 budget, which we'll be talking about over the course of the next 60 days. But very importantly, the actions we have taken to lower taxes and to stabilize the revenue streams have gotten credit on Wall Street from the various bond rating agencies. At the end of 2017, which was the last day of the prior administration, there was an assessment done, an audit done. And when that audit was complete, the major bond ratings agencies lowered Westchester's bond rating. Over the course of the last 5 years, almost 6 years now, we've stabilized that and turned it around in the right direction, where we now have a positive outlook, a slight upgrade with the opportunity for future upgrades, depending on how we do our business. That is a turnaround from what we had prior to our administration taking office. And we've grown our reserves. We have significant reserves in our budget, which are necessary in case unexpected expenses come, and they come. The rainy day has been raining more than ever before, both in literal terms and in figurative terms as well. And we never know what kind of changes the New York State government has in store. And oftentimes, as happened in the last budget, there will be decisions they make in Albany that will affect our budget mid-year significantly. We lobby to try to help make that a less impact. Most people don't know or care about it. But if our mission is to try to make sure that we provide the services that we're responsible to do, and at the same time control property taxes that we're responsible for, the county property taxes, then we're doing the job that you sent us here to do. And it's very important for you to understand that. Most people don't pay much attention unless their taxes go up and go up dramatically. But when they don't see it go up, or when they see it go down a little bit, they don't necessarily know. So now you know. It's important for you to understand that. The decisions we make in the upcoming budget is framed around what delivers the services that we're required to do or that we know are necessary. But we make those decisions in a world in which we know that you do not have unlimited money to pay in taxes. And we take that into account, and we try to make that part of our public policy. We've cut taxes for the last 4 years. We've done it responsibly. I've had the support of professionals to be able to do that. Ken Jenkins is Deputy County Executive, Joan McDonnell, our Director of Operations, Emily Saltzman, our Deputy Director of Operations, Larry Sewell, our Budget Director, Karen Hablow, who's our Finance Director. We have able support from Director of Administration, Chris Steers, and Director of Research, Ellen Hendricks, and of course, Catherine Chaffee helps us bring this information to the world as Director of Communications. But when we talk tomorrow about crime, when we talk to the day after that about environment, we're talking about the issues that affect your life. We want you to understand that we're making positive steps in the right direction, and we hope to do more. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.